What's good, family? Hopefully, y'all are enjoying this beautiful holiday season. Regardless of what holiday, whether it's Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, or just a happy Saturday, whatever it is, I want to say thank you for tuning in to the YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in to the website. I'm taking this opportunity to hop in with a couple of friends of mine who are not only great friends, they're also great artists. And above that, they are very I can't say all my friends. Most of my friends are very intellectual, but these two are very smart and have great perspectives, insights. So I say all that to say we're going to have a great conversation, a great time. We're going to have some jokes. We're going to have some laughs, but we also going to say some things that need to be said, and we're going to say some things that need to be heard. I'll say up front, nothing that we say is going to come from a space of negativity or disdain, or well, I might have some disdain, but it's still like this is not personal. I'll say it like that. But there's conversations that we need to have, both in the artist community, in the creative community, in the Black community, and none of those communities are monoliths. So I say all that to say this is part of my contribution to some of these conversations as they need to happen, and hopefully we can all learn, grow, see other perspectives, even if we don't change our minds about anything, to see other perspectives and hear parts and stories that we may not have heard otherwise. So, with that being said, I want to bring to the stage two of my many great friends, my brother Al Pete, my sister JD Green. I'm gonna give them the opportunity to introduce themselves, and of course, ladies first. It's on you, JD.
I am Yolanda JD Green. I tend to go by a few different names. But when it comes to my creative self, I'm a vocalist first. I'm also a poet. I'm an improviser and a librarian by trade. And so there are a lot of different ways that I have found throughout my life, from childhood through adolescence, starting my classical training as a singer, and building musicianship and all of these wonderful things that have added to who I am as an artist. So I'm really a performer of various kinds, and I can be a very philosophical when it comes to craft and what the arts and performance can be in terms of consensus, what we create together when we agree to be in that creative space. So I'm glad to be here and to kind of just talk about making stuff and the different perspectives that we may have with our own art as well as with those that support us.
Well, it's great to have you here. I'm not gonna tell folks, even though I'm sure I'm gonna spill it later. I'm not gonna tell folks how long I've known you, but me and JD, we go back, like way back, back, back,
You
back,
tell
back.
me how to throw a baseball.
Yeah, yeah, across the yard at K State. So yeah, we
I
go
was
back.
throwing it down. You're
Yeah,
like,
'cause
if
yeah,
you
don't do that no
want it
more.
to go to the ground, like
Yeah,
what's
you're
on
gonna
the
hurt
ground.
somebody. But next up, my brother Al Pete. Let the folks know.
What's happening, everybody? Good day, good afternoon, good evening. It's Mr. Al Pete, founder of the MPN Network. It's a media company based out of Jacksonville, Florida. Personally, hip hop artist, hip hop musician, which consists of me being an MC, DJ, journalist, podcaster, um, the cool neighbor you like to hang out with, the cool cousin you love. That's me, man. So yeah, MrAlPete.com.
Cool, cool. I want to welcome you both in. So this is not structured beyond the fact that I know that we aren't ignorant, so I'm not worried about having to bleep nothing out. So your mics are gonna stay live, hop in
My
and out
mic,
as
I
y'all.
think he kind of
Well,
profaned. I'm just
we all know me, and I know y'all. So I don't even know why I just said that. A little bit of I guess backstory for the listeners and the watchers and the viewers. Um, Even though a lot of what we talk about today is going to have some undercurrents of this current Andre 3000 album that came out recently, and a lot of the I wouldn't even say controversy, but a lot of the conversations happening in the zeitgeist around that, artist freedom, artist creativity. But I want to say it was maybe Aprilish, early in the pandemic, at least early in the shutdown kind of space of the pandemic. I did a live stream, and I just talked about how are you using artists in the pandemic times, in that kind of early stages of it. And when I said how are you using them, I meant it just like that. Whether it's D Nice, whether it's insert your local poet here, your local or your favorite DJ or whatever that artist was, the arts came back to the forefront in a way that it really wasn't for a while because it's coming out of schools and all those other things around that. But the arts really brought people together and maintained a sense of balance and sanity for a large grouping of folks when times were very difficult, when we couldn't go out, we couldn't meet up with friends and family. Um, some folks couldn't even go out to the park and shoot basketball because they took the rims down because they would want people meeting up. So I say all that to say that conversation was about how are you using artists, and are you using artists, or are you like allowing artists to create and then allowing their art to be something that inspires, um, adds to your mental health, whatever. But that conversation came from the context of a lot of people taking out of that ecosystem and not giving back. And then, artists, most of the artists I know, for better for worse, we create. We're artists, so we gonna make something. We don't always get paid what we should get paid. We don't always handle the business the way we should, and all these other things around that. But it takes a lot for us to stop being creative. Um, so with that being said, I want to jump forward. And once again, feel free to jump in and out as the points hit you. But with this new release of Andre 3000's album, New Blue Sun, which is, for those who may not have heard and thought it was a joke, it is an instrumental album. It is really just he and a small grouping of musicians playing a variety of woodwind and digital woodwind instruments, a lot of flutes, bassoons, some other instruments I don't even know the names of, but basically this is it's kind of hard to put a genre on it, but I would call it a instrumental ambiance experimental album. And a lot of conversations and comments around why did he do it? How could he do this to us? Does he have the right to do it? Of all these things that people have been asking for him to do since his last release, or at least full LP release, which was the Idlewild soundtrack, which was what, 06-ish, give or take. Yeah, so we talk about 17 years. People been clamoring for Outcast slash Andre 3000 full length project, and he says, all right, and gives y'all this. A lot of folks are mad, literally. So I guess we'll start here. When we talk about artists and what artists owe the community, what artists owe the world, if they owe anything, like, so let's just start there. Like, what are the responsibilities, expectations, accountabilities? What are y'all thoughts about that in terms of artists and what they put out into the world?
What I'm thinking is that there are multiple functions of the artist and the roles that we take in our creation, the things that we make. That while particularly folks that are creating or artistic and selling those works, that there is something to be said about craft and style and appeal, where we want to find our audience, whoever that audience is. We want them to be our supporters. There's also a kind of expectation that this is what I fell in love with you this is what you were doing when I fell in love with your work, and this is what I want you to do forever and ever. Amen. And it doesn't really give a lot of room for evolution, for experimentation. And while, yes, the listener sustains, the supporter helps to give a platform or visibility or viability to an artist's work, as artists ourselves, like especially we get to the point where we're brave enough to say that I am an artist, that we create for ourselves, that there's a kind of release that is necessary. I know when I see people, I've been singing since I was about 10. And I would see people off and on, like from college or high school or beyond. And they would ask me, like, are you still singing? And it's like, yes, absolutely. If I don't sing, I'll die. So that there's, and I know because I've been dead during those times when I wasn't singing. And so I very much appreciate the people that listen and that they want another album from me. My first one, Diurnal Movements, I can't post anything musical. And they're like, but we want the album though, because it was 2010. It was experimental. It was me figuring out that I was a singer-songwriter, like all of these kinds of things. And so there's the release that we have, that cathartic or that experimentation or that, that urge to get something out, whatever that thing is. And people kind of feel a ownership over the product, especially when they consider your work a product, or when they consider it as something that you owe them because they have supported you up to this point. And so that relationship between the artist and their various moods or modes, um, materials, all these kinds of ways in which we can create, and then the expectation of those that make up our audience can definitely be in tension. And folks can be very possessive of what they see someone else's art being for them, and not considering the artist at all.
Well, as an MC and as a DJ, but and I don't want to direct you away from any of what your thoughts may be, but specifically as an MC, Al, who's released projects, what are your thoughts, and in whatever context that you want to share.
So it's interesting. Maybe like an hour or so before I jumped on, um, I was joking about Christmas music, and one of my homies flipped like this the Charlie Brown beat, which I'll send to you, Craig. He flipped the Christmas joint. He was rapping over it, and I started listening to his album, and I was on his album like 3 times, and this was like 2008, and I was just listening to like my words or whatnot, and I was thinking, I was like, man, I didn't care at I ain't gonna say I didn't care at all. I cared about my art and how I presented it, but I just loved that feeling that I was in, that I was like, you know, I didn't really have to prove anything. It was just me just being free, just like, spitting like lines, just spitting lines that I had. And
Mhm.
it was cool to be in that mode, and it kind of pushed me again to that mode. Like, look, Pete, when you jump back into this MC role, you know, do it for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, create from, what comes from your soul or whatnot. And I tell people all the time, jokingly, but I be not seriously, but jokingly, but like, the reason why I still rap is so I won't like bust nobody in their head. And I say that, like jokingly, but it's like my release, right? So
However,
It's real. It's
so
real.
however,
like
Don't be
it's
walking
real,
up
yeah,
on
like
me
it's
and I'm
really
like,
real.
you catch the wrong person. You catch the wrong one. I got to get
Right,
this out
right. So that's like
there.
that's why I go back. Like when I have those bad days, I'm able to go back to my pen and my pad, or my phone, or even come to the mic and be able to like express myself the way that it is. And I
Mhm.
found that people love the fact that I express myself that way, and they don't make me waver from that. You know what I'm saying? From the MC side. Now the DJ side, they're gonna give requests all day, but that's another story. But um yeah, man, I just like the fact that I could do it for myself. Do I owe people that? No, not necessarily. I mean, it's really just giving myself to the world, and you just you take it for what it is. As long as you respect it or whatnot. And that's why I love artistry. And I'm very careful when I be like something is not good or something's whack or whatever, because I think about what artists be at the time that they wrote that or they expressed that. They might have been going through hell and high waters. So I
Mhm.
let people exist the way that they are. So, um, and they don't owe me anything for doing their art. And I'm appreciative that people don't do that to me, especially from the MC side.
dope, dope. You both kind of said something in reference both, the release, the freedom, and the actual the. I guess that's what it really is, just the freedom and the freedom to be an artist, to be creative, not and not just like to have the ability, but to be able to do
The
the thing. Like a
practice.
lot of a lot of people can rap, but they don't
Mm.
really get a chance to rap. A lot of people have these talents, but they don't really have a chance to exercise their talents. So having that ability and the chance, the ableness to get a chance to exercise those things. So with having heard that in both of your statements, I want to read a post that JD Green put out, and then also I would love for you to follow up Al after she kind of gives more background to this post that I'm gonna read, because you recently put out a blog in part speaking to your thoughts around Andre 3000's release, and less about the album itself, but his mind state and some of the things he shared in some of the interviews you were seeing leading up to the release. But JD put a post out. She put it on Facebook and IG, I believe. But it reads this, and I'm quoting: "I remember the love below, and I remember Idlewild. Walked out the theater and went straight to Walmart to cop the soundtrack. Weird as it was, we dug it. Folks were mad confused in '03 and '06. Andre been exploring and evolving, and Big Boy along with him. Artists get to do that. As patrons, we can come along or not. Musicians and performers and painters and poets move through different periods in their work. You can't tell your soul what to create. What comes is what comes. And the old fans ain't got to like it because the new ones will fill in as you leave. Fellow artists, remember your stance when you are ready to experiment and folks smack their lips about you." Words of JD Green. You want to add any more context or any more thoughts to that, sis?
Yeah. I think about there's this kind of box. A box is a metaphor that we use a lot, but there's a kind of cage that artists can be found in. And it's not only the ones that we put ourselves in or the expectations of others, but even of our peers and other artists have an expectation of dopeness, right? That if you were doing this, like this is the material you were using, like this is the medium you were doing, like this is the kind of vibe that your work was doing, and this is when we thought you were dope. So why would you not continue to do that? Or we don't want to hear you doing anything other than what we want you to do, without also understanding that before they heard us the first time doing whatever it was that we did, they were receptive to whatever it was that we did that connected. And that level of trust in the artist to be able to create something that comes from them, that goes out into the world, not just to be out there, but to connect with people. I know when I perform and when I create, I am thinking about people. When I'm writing poems, even the poems are full of rage, or, where I'm doing these improvisational loops, that there is something that I'm trying to communicate, to get out of myself, to go out into the world, to be absorbed or to be inhaled and then, resent out. And it can be really condescending to suggest that an artist doesn't know what they should be doing, and that what is commercially available or expected is more valuable than the new ground that's being explored. And for myself as an improviser and somebody who like has this real tension between recovering perfectionism and polish, but also creating room for the visceral, for the imperfect, for the raw, for the immediate, and having folks argue with me about what I do and how I create. And so when I hear the conversations about Andre 3000 and what he should be doing or what he is doing, or calling it doctor's office music or elevator music, it gets really insulting as far as I can see, that you trusted him to be an artist doing the things that you dug. But now that he's being an artist in a way that's unfamiliar to you, now he's suspect. And that's not cool. Like there's no contract that he signed with people. His features have continued over the 16 years or whenever. Like he's some of my most favorite Three Stacks verses are within like fewer than the last 10 years. I would say Come Home on Anderson Paak. That's when like boom. And then the Hello on But You Can't Use My Phone with him and Badu, produced by Seven. You know what I'm saying? Like that there are some things that he is able to bring to an adult conversation and context. Like he is a grown man, and yet he doesn't have to express his creativity in the way that we want or even the way that we expect.
I want to say some things, but I'll let you go, Al, because you know me. I'm trying to moderate both myself and the conversation.
Hey, listen, that moderating window, they can go out the window in any given moment, because we're talking about something that's very pure, especially when it comes to the artistic side, man. You know, we don't play about that, man. And I know me and you, Krate, we've had plenty of conversations um together and in open space. So, feel free, brother, to talk about it, because I don't play about this artistic stuff, man. And JD, you're doing an absolutely great job with like defining what where artists stand at, and really not necessarily where artists stand at, where people should stand with the artist. That's what I'm loving about what you're saying. So, I mean, she nodded out the park with everything that was stated. I totally agree with everything that's going on, man. I think it's and you read my blog, man. I mean, and my blog, I was coming from a cadence standpoint. I wasn't even coming from the flute standpoint. This is way before an album even came out, and I had to really, really, really check myself as an artist, from an artist to an artist. And I'm like, one of the main points that I had was like this guy has been doing this way before, like we know his tempo, we know his palette.
Mhm.
So why are people even questioning that? Because I feel like he should be he shouldn't be in a GOAT conversation because he doesn't have a solo album. Like, that's pretty. I thought that was pretty shallow of me to think that way, but I checked myself, and I you
You
know
see
I'm
my face like gas face all day. Like, what? But I'm
I
listening.
mean,
Listening.
but you know what? But like, again, I had to check myself on that. Like, I had to think about that feeling that I had when I first got Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music. Like, you know, when I first heard that, I've been riding with them ever since. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, really grown with them, and both artists, individually and collectively, have expanded my thought process as an artist. Like, they inspired me. They're my favorite group, and that's the shameful part that I'm saying publicly now. Like Pete, like, these are like your top inspirations, and for you to question, that Andre, can we listen to an album that him sound like a robot, when when the robotic aspect is in his name already. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy that I thought
Mhm.
that, but I just got lost in the sauce. And but I think people are getting like way, way deeper into it. And I'm just like, now y'all really killing it. And it just really it just shows that how people really look at artists. And I keep referencing DJ, and I know we're gonna get on the DJ part, but I mean, I think about how, like, people really be treating DJs like it's a service, like we're a service, and it's like we're some of the most artistic people behind those tables, and really
Mhm.
bending music and being able to like talk through our music and stuff like that. And it is the insult that people come and just be like, you need to do this and do that, or they request they request it. It's really a full insult. So for me to come at Andre 3000 from a cadence standpoint was crazy, let alone him exploring like an instrument along
Mhm.
with some other folks, and really giving like the world some peace and relaxation, and just him unapologetically.
Yep.
Yeah, and I want to get to that last part because that was for those of you who haven't read the blog. I'm gonna make the link available for you guys to check out the blog in its entirety. But that being at peace and the energy that he both spoke about having grown and evolved into, and the spaces at now. I want to get back to that, but what I really want to say, I guess, what's most important for me to say now is listening to both your comments. The metaphor that I shared earlier this week, which with our folks, Al was in the room when I said it. That was really among the many things that I saw, and of course we all know social media. We're not supposed to take. You're supposed to take it with a grain of salt, whatever, whatever. But at the same time, I say anytime you say something, and you're willing to put it next to your name and your face, I'm gonna hold you to it.
Mhm.
And like same for me. Like if I say something ridiculous, even if I'm joking, if I offend somebody, I got to be accountable. So with that being said, it was really wild, like you were saying, Al, like just how far people were taking some of their critiques. But like even in the subjective nature of, if you don't like something, you don't like it. And it ain't for me to even ask really what it is you don't like or why don't you like it, or you don't have to explain it to me. But with that being said, it was very interesting how all of these folks who were so animated about their disdain, dislike, unappreciation, unapproval, whatever the word is, or words that are applicable, I didn't hear anybody really be subjective about what they didn't like about it. And to me, like, the metaphor was kind of like, imagine learning a whole new language. Like, English is my first language, but imagine if I learned a whole new language, went out and gave a TED talk in that new language, and all my friends told me that my TED talk was whack.
Boo! We
Yeah,
want it in
yeah,
English.
yeah.
Boo!
Not because the information was wrong, not because I
We
had
don't
the
like
new
that.
language wrong. Yeah, it's because you ain't do it for me the
Right.
way I want you to do it. So, not that I couldn't engage it the way I wanted to, or any other level of objective criticism that may be applicable. It's whack. It's not dope. And I'm like, y'all, like, and now I find myself defending Andre 3000. He don't need me to do it. I don't need to
He
be
does
doing it.
not.
Yeah, but I find myself having to defend him. And I think to a larger space, I'm really defending artists and creative people, because I've been in that space where I've just grown, even if it's not a lane I stayed in, growing and developing and improving my artistic or musical chops, and being like, I'm going to put out an EP, not because I gotta get numbers or I gotta make sales. And even though I want people to listen to it, and ideally I want people to like it, I don't care if nobody listens to it, because I'm not putting it out for y'all. I'm putting it out for me to, in part, document my growth, my evolution, and my
Yes.
trek, my journey as a creative person. And these are one of the stops along that way. So, you mentioned something very specific to that, JD. And then once again, Al, you mentioned some things about how, just people feel free to critique. And I can be very critical as well, but I also try to give subjective and objective kind of parameters to that. I don't, if something ain't for me, I'll say, yo, this just ain't for me. So I'm not even in a space to critique it. And once again, what was funny to me is, like, most of these folks who are saying this is whack or not good or all of these things, other than it's not for them. Like, you don't listen to Alice Coltrane, you don't listen to Rashida Ali,
Yes,
you
there's
don't
a
listen to
legacy
Yusuf,
there.
you don't listen to Yusuf Lateef. The list goes on. So, like, since when are we letting the vegetarians, like, judge who got the best ribs? Like,
Even
the
like the
vegetarian,
titles. The titles
yeah,
of the songs are very much giving me Fiona Apple. Okay. That she got album titles. It's like 34 words. I don't even trust that she know the full title of, as the pawn does the monkey, or, like whatever it beautiful sentiments that she has created for the titles of her work. Like the idea that it's instrumental. And so it's not like it's lyrics on these things. There's this intention that's been put in this work that symbolizes or embodies this feeling. I mean, as a vocalist, all my music, the things that I love most are vocally driven, even if it's vocalese, if there's no lyrics or anything. But like the idea that these particular thoughts and words were in mind when making this wordless piece, I got to jump in because some of my favorite people are DJs. I say this all the time. And the things that I love about DJs is that it's not just playing song after song after song. Depending on what techniques and technologies you use. I mean, I remember when Krate was learning to DJ and he was chopping and slicing, and and Sakari was letting me sit in to see how DJs worked. And it's when you carry crates, that was part of your like your apprenticeship. You know what I mean? But like the DJs curate sound. You curate experiences, you pull from various time periods. So like something like Spotify or Pandora uses a semantic. It's a semantic search. So the qualities in the song that if you create a whole station on Pandora, like when we were all listening to Pandora, it takes it analyzes the aspects of that song, and then based on what you like after that, it'll give you more of that or less of that. And that are the various parts that make the song what it is. But DJ's been doing that. So it might be a version excursion like DJ Applejack might do, like different folks playing the same song, or you might choose to take this. I mean, the turntables and break beats and hip hop, like all of these sounds, you take it from here and you have this melodic thing that you're putting here, and then you can move through time, you can move through theme, lyric. I mean, there are all of these different ways that you can put together, and nobody's turntablism, nobody's curation of music is exactly the same. And that being able to be a part of the community supporting DJs during the pandemic, like becoming very comfortable with Twitch, and finding people that I was listening to and learning about, like a DJ Quinette. She's from Louisville, Kentucky. Now she's blowing it up in New York. And I met her at a gig. We were doing a sound check and we just started talking. And this is a couple years before she's doing this stuff. But now she's got folks around the world that are supporting her, from her Twitch channel, from her sole purpose, to doing the live performances, to being in London. And what I mean? Like that, there are all of these ways that folks are able to have this entry point in the type of curation that people do. And it's hella disrespectful to only want the DJ to play your song, the thing that you want. And it's like, well, when you make your mix or you make your blend, you do that. But you have to trust the artist to be able to do that. And then the second thing, and I'm gonna be quiet for a minute, is when artists who want to be multidisciplinary artists themselves will begrudge other artists when they change. So you started out as a poet or a spoken word artist, and now you're doing a mixed media assemblage, or you're doing visual art, and then somebody's like, well, you doing this and you doing that, but that same person is a visual artist first, is it, and then is a DJ, and then so why is it that you're able to have this freedom to explore genre and materials and thematic experience or whatever, but other artists are not able to do that same thing? Like, we have to be able to give it and to take it. You know what I'm saying? We can get
Absolutely.
real picky about what other people do,
Hmm.
but then don't want those same parameters to be put on us. We want to be able to create freely, and everything ain't gonna be dope on the first try, and it's not supposed to be. It's just not.
Yeah.
I get very
Um,
passionate.
no,
Nah,
so
I respect that,
go
and
ahead, Al.
that was my blog. That was my blog wrapped up in a bow. Like, as an artist, like that was my first thought. I was like, as an artist, like, and I said it in the room Monday. Like, I was like, we are all striving to be where this man is at. Whatever kind of way, don't even matter what kind of way you're looking at it. If you want to, from the poetry side to the person that want to get money 24/7, we all have some form or some component that we want to have accepted by people, bring some form of relief or relaxation to other people. And so we have to really be careful with that as artists, what I'm saying, when it comes to other artists. And
Mhm.
that was a very good wrap up. I appreciate those words, JD.
I met a gypsy and she hit me to some life game to stimulate and activate the left and right brain. Say, baby boy, you only funky at your last cut. You focus on the past, your ass to be your has what. That's one to live by, or either that's one to die to. I try to just throw it at you, determine your own adventure, Andre. Got to a station, here's my destination. She got off the bus, the conversation lingered in my head for hours. Took a shower, kinda sour, cause my favorite group ain't coming with it. But I'm with you, cause you're probably going through it anyway. But anyhow, went and died. Went on out and bought it, cause I thought it would be jamming. But examine all the flaws, walk it off lit. Sad and it's costly, but that's all shit. Wrote and I hope I never have to float in that boat. Up Shit's Creek, it's weak, it's the last quote that I wanna hear when I'm going down. When all said and done and we got a new Joe in town. When the record player get the skipping and slowing down. All y'all can say is them niggas earn that crown, but until then,
Push straight fools. Everybody move to the back of the bus. Do you wanna bump and smoke with us?
So Al, you mentioned, and even though once again, I think the Andre 3000 sub layer of this conversation is going to stay there, so I'm not going to try to push us away from it. But you mentioned specifically when you watched, I think it was the GQ interview, and some of the things he was saying about kind of where he's at and a certain level of peace and acceptance and evolution and growth that he has and is in, and how that's in part something that you're working towards. Al, if you don't mind, like kind of sharing some of those perspectives and critiques, and then JD, feel free to follow up, because you did mention in some of your earlier comments about like you've had those quote unquote deaths because you haven't had the space to be creative or art or those releases or whatever. So Al, and then JD, talk about just outside of it, of the talk about the album, like just what that means from a human aspect, whether it be a human and an artist, a human and a creative, or just as a human, and what that freedom of and kind of self, I guess, self destiny, and kind of just, there's another word that'll come to me while y'all are talking, and I'll come back to it. But just, yeah, just once again, the ability to be one's authentic self, whatever that has grown into, and as it changes through life.
That self-determination for your art as you kind of guide it.
Yeah. I mean, first off, this guy was at a laundromat washing clothes, like legit washing clothes, yo. And I was like, I have a wash and dry in my house, but that man made me want to go take my clothes to the laundromat. I felt like I was trying to ground myself when I went.
I was
It was
thinking like,
almost
hey,
like
I was like, hey,
I
brother,
looked-
I got a load, brother. If you want to season some, if you want to season some dungarees, I got a couple pair that, yeah.
Like, I mean, just in detail with that, like he was saying how he has all these uniforms, and like when he mentioned that he like to, he like to put his hands in his pocket and stuff like that, I was like, man, that's freedom. I mean, for him to have a rubber duck, that to me, that was freedom. For him to express how he thinks that being famous sucks, like that little part in that part, when he said that part, I was like, yo, I totally agree with it, because when people have this interpretation of an artist, and then it gets further and further if they let it be, what we call delusional, you know what I'm saying? And then that's when the expectation of the artist, gets heavier and heavier. And it's like, it's not fair on that. So it was just cool to hear him say those type of things and do these type of things when I might not do similar things to him that he does, but I do have methods of my creativity that I love doing, that grounds me and puts me at an independence level, and puts me in that level to where I don't have to answer to nobody, or I'm doing this because I feel like I want to do it, because we all have responsibilities at work, home, etc., stuff like that. But it's always good to just be grounded. So just seeing that GQ interview and just him talk, I mean, his brotherhood with Big Boy, that whole spill, that conversation right there, it was just cool to see. Like, you can tell them boys ain't lost a step, you know what I'm saying? And if they ever get back together, it'd be great. But both of them are great where they're at, you know what I'm saying? I think that's a high level of like artistry that we would want to be at, you know what I'm saying? Especially with the fact that he didn't even realize that he would be in the place that he's in right now. I'm sure both of them are looking, well, he admitted it, but I'm sure they have their moments where they're like, man, like, we have the best selling album, you know what I'm saying? The best selling hip hop album ever. And you know what I'm saying? Like, their artistry has taken them so far, you know what I'm saying, in the world that we can only imagine. And so I'm sure they're looking at it like, wow, this is great. But at the same time, too, they're probably looking like, well, we're grounded. And I relate to that, because I know when we're artists, we put ourselves out there so much, you know what I'm saying? Regardless if we're putting it out there for ourselves or if we're doing it for a service product, what have you. But we put ourselves out there. But it's always cool to be able to come back to a focal point and be able to be artists, like how we want to be artists. And even if we ever get to the point, I mean, I'm sure we'll get to the highest level of it, and we'll probably still feel like, okay, I want to be able to get to another level or whatever. But it'll be when we want to do it, not when the public or people tell us when to do it. If that makes any sense.
I think about Andre 3000, the fact that he got multiple names that he goes by. And we could just say 3 Stacks, we could say 3000, we could say, that he is so singular in our musical and like hip hop, the fabric of our culture, that
Mhm.
you don't ever have to say Andre Benjamin, and we know who you're talking about. And I'm picturing him saying, the South got something to say. And Aquemini, like, you got an Aquarius and a Gemini, you gonna have some weird stuff coming up. And it's not just Dre, who is experimental and out there. Like, people sleep on Big Boy. They two weirdos together. It's just one is more conventional in terms of what hip hop is supposed to look like, but he got raptors. He got hawks and shit in the studio, and he's playing with his grandbabies. Like, these dudes are real men who have grown from young men to have these things that they love to do, who they are, as well as their craft. And the thing is, like, for me as an artist educator, everybody does not have to be a professional musician. It is not necessary for everyone to be a professional. However, everyone has music inside of them. Everybody has a song. Everybody has an outlet. Everybody has or needs a way that they can ground themselves. And I remember during the pandemic, I wasn't singing, and it was tough. I did some, in the house recordings, and doing some, I send you tracks like a la foreign exchange. You send me something, I send you something, we go back and forth. But the idea of, me, I started rapping crystals. I'm wearing them right now because there were things that I needed to be a part of. There are things that I needed to do to reconnect. So that if you see my Instagram or my whatever, there's lots of pictures of flowers, trees, leaves, the ground, feathers, rocks. My pockets will be full of rocks. I cleaned my car out the other day, and I was like, what are you gonna do with these rocks? And now, are these keep in the car rocks? Are these give back to nature rocks? Or is these go into the house rocks? And they do ground me. There's something that is just me from when I was a kid. I don't have to worry about anybody throwing my rocks away now, that I get to collect rocks and feathers and have baggies that I carry on my person, so that when I pick something up, I have it. And it's weird to some people, but it's necessary for me. And and thinking about the way that other people kind of commodify what we create, I'm just thinking about being a person who's like multi hyphenate, like vocalist, poet, educator, arts, blogger, improviser. After a while, people get tired of hearing all of the very things that you are. But we aren't always all of those things at the same time. And I think about myself as a poet coming back to my work. And the thing that I've been saying is that sometimes the work waits for us. And there are things when I was writing my dissertations, I do have my PhD, and I did experimental poetics was part of it. And so I wrote this collection of original poetry for the creative part of my dissertation. And then I had these 3 chapters that grounded those poems, and then a lyric essay to kind of tie everything together. And I wrote a lot of those poems when I was in my 20s. And now I'm in my 40s. And going back to that same work, it's not the same. Style has changed, perspective has changed. I'm rewriting them, putting new language in there. I got a poem about me and a dude smoking a blunt having to do with gender-based violence, which is a poem that I never would have written 10 years ago, hell, 7 years ago. So, like, there are these different ways that we have to, like, give ourselves permission to do these things. People act like Andre just popped out. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna start playing the flute. That's not what he did. He's been out with his flute in the subway, on the street, in the mall, at his mama house. I don't know. But like, we aren't new to him playing the flute. This is not something that he sprang on us. We had at least 3 years to get used to it. Okay.
That's part of what's so ridiculous about some of these things. And not just that, but it's not like he's bad. When you listen to it, he's not just walking, he's not doing hot cross buns on the recording. He's not walking scales.
No.
Even if it's not whatever, it's not bad. It's not improperly played.
Oh my God, he's such a terrible flautist.
So,
like, that's not where we are. we had time to get used to this thing. And the idea, I mean, he says he would love to come out and play and do verses and trade and do features and stuff, but that's not where his heart is right now. And when somebody does the thing that nobody knows that they do, and they decide that they're going to do it in public, that they're going to put a name on it, they're going to package it, and they're going to say, this is this thing that I made. And it goes out into the world. Once you let it go, it's not yours anymore. It's how other people receive it. It's how other people critique it. There are already people that have chopped and flipped. He made this album that's wonderful with like an hour and a half of like ambient, meditative. There's people that are DJs and MCs have already started playing around with them. I know y'all probably have. But like
I played the 15th.
They already have. There gonna be some words to them songs. I mean, there people can say what they want to say, but an artist is an artist, and even a learning artist is still an artist. And you get to play, you get to figure things out. Being a children's librarian helped me understand that about myself. That play is necessary to how we learn. Children sing everything. They have the permission to sing everything, for it to be a song and a dance and to be excited. And as artists, isn't that what we're gunning for? To be able to be excited about this new thing you learn to do. There's this something, and it may not even be for everybody else. But like, I did this thing, and I want you to listen to it. Because that's what my first song was. I didn't even know what it was. I played it for a few different people. They were like, oh, yeah, that's dope. That's dope. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's incomplete. Until I played it for the right person. We were in rehearsal, and I took a chance. And instead of listening, oh, yeah, that's going to be dope, he picked up a guitar and was like, you want to play that together? And we put it to pieces. And then we made some scratch vocals. And then we put together a demo for me to take home and be like, yo, I think I want to write an album, because none of my friends would write one for me. So I had to figure out how to do that. But talking to other people, they didn't really care what happened to those snippets of music, whatever it was. But I got with the right person who heard what it could be and worked to collaborate with me to make it something beyond either of us being able to understand or even expect. And so the idea of art as a commodity, as something that's packaged, as something that belongs to people, is really troubling to me, because creativity is something that keeps us all here. My mother was an artist. She was a dancer in school. She sewed, she crocheted, she did silk flower arrangements, she did hair, she did nails, she did all of these things. And I remember feeling like I wasn't an artist because I didn't do the things that she did. But I was singing and I was acting and I was performing and improvising. And it took a long time before I realized I was like, I'm a poet. Like, I'm a legitimate artist. I don't do the same stuff. But like, giving ourselves permission to create the thing, to do it in public, and then share it.
Sometimes you get ready, you stand up, walk around the room, but by the time you end up backstage and they have you come out, your mind goes blank. So you gotta have it,
That's the courageous part of being an artist. And I think that's the part that people are missing about this new project that he's doing, is like, I am doing a new thing. And I have enough love for it. I have enough play in it. I have enough invested in it now that I'm not just, the Pied Piper. Well, I won't use Pied Piper because then we start thinking about it. That this idea of him playing
Another
his
guy.
flute, we don't acknowledge that person. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like that there's this like, okay, I think I want to do something with this now.
So two things real quick. You mentioned on your Instagram, we'll see flowers, we'll see rocks, we'll see other things. We'll also see some fresh shoes with the 3 stripes. I must say, both JD Green and my brother Al Pete, myself included, but we're not talking about me. We're not talking about me. When it comes to the Adidas, these two folks right here, like check the Instagram.
I got stuff I ain't even posted yet.
They know what they're doing. I listen. If I know one thing, I know how to move with the 3 stripes crowd. So I know.
Hey,
Anyway,
real
yeah.
quick, you mentioned at the beginning about the aliases or whatever. I always thought it was dope when he used how he flipped Benjamin like into Benjamin. I'm like, every time he says, Andre Benjamin, like it's such a, was it like a double entendre? Like it just, I love how he used that. Like he turned his name into like an instrument. I thought that was dope.
I guess another thing to share and kind of start to wind down this conversation, and ideally we'll have many more in the near and far future. But I think we've all spoke about in some capacity or some way, like our, even if it's not specifically, but just have acknowledged that we've all gone through those phases, those growths, whether it just be I'm in the process of putting in my 10,000 hours, and now I'm 10,000 hours past my first 10,000 hours, or whatever that may look like for us in our different creative pursuits. Kind of just share your thoughts. And both of you kind of referenced it, but I would love for you to kind of be very direct and intentional around talking around just the creating something as one's most authentic self, like really having the space, the drive, the privilege at some time, at some points, the luxury, but having not just the ability, excuse me, not just the capability, but the ability to say, who I am creates this. And this other stuff that I would love to do, it's not in me to do right now. But what is in me to do is this. And, I think that's one of the things that, at least for me, that kind of grinds my disdainful energy towards some of these comments. And once again, I don't take them personally, but I'm just like, yo, it's disappointing because some of these folks are people who are like, as you said, JD, like some of these folks talking crazy, like y'all are artists who are struggling to get people to come to your shows and struggling to get people but we're not going to talk about that part. But like some of y'all are artists. So for y'all to be so free about like not saying like I didn't like this album because of A, B, and C, but just whole cloth blatantly wiping it off the table like this is trash. Like that's like that as I said, and I meant it, like my Facebook roster is my Facebook friends list is going to be minimized over these next few days. Like
Whittled down.
Yeah, like keep going, y'all. Y'all making it easy for me because I don't have to scroll through it. Like pop up on the timeline. Oh, another one. Cool. And like I go on about my day and I have no qualms about like, and once again, it's not a personal thing, like it's not about them, but understanding for me and being very honest. Like if that is the energy that you're okay with putting out, I don't need that energy in my ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even need that energy, and I can't eliminate it, but I don't even want awareness of people who have that energy because I will be at some point sooner than later or later than sooner finding a new creative output, another way to be creative, trying something out. And I know that I need to create space and move myself away from people who are okay with just wiping that off the table just because it ain't what they want me to do or how they want me to do it. So once again, if y'all could speak to just what it means to you, what your thoughts are about it, whether you've experienced or not, like just the ability to say, this is who I am and this is what is in me. And if if nobody, even not my mama or my daddy or my mama or them want to appreciate this, it's I can't do nothing or be nobody else or do nothing else because that's not who I am or how I am right now. If y'all just want to speak to that aspect of creating as one's most authentic self.
I remember one particular time, it was 2010ish or whatnot. I had dabbled my foot in the acting water, which that was a funny story, which I would like to go back to now. But I remember I
This ain't that one movie. What'd you call it? Loose Ways. This that. Don't worry, it's an inside joke. Keep going. I told you 2 weeks ago. I told you I was gonna get you. It took me a second because I was gonna get you 2 weeks ago and I couldn't remember it. But thank you.
Fair enough. So, so I remember it was like that period of time. I had did like 2 movies, and I think matter of fact, I was working on a play that actually turned into a movie, and I remember feeling like so disconnected from the situation, and I was around a new group of people. I was like, I just didn't feel right. I definitely felt disconnected from the core, but I couldn't pinpoint what the core was. But I remember saying, "Yo, I'm just gonna work on the album when I get finished with this. Like, I'm gonna have to go back to it, not knowing that me getting back to the MC side of things, is my center. Like that's the point that I always go back to when anything that I'm doing. I have to go back and visit that spot, even if I just record something and it just sits on a hard drive. But just the efforts that I make when I do that, I was like, I have to be in this spot right here, and I don't care what anybody else thinks, what they want me to do or whatever. I have to go back to this point. So I remember that one particular time where I was like, darn, I'm tired of acting. I'm tired of doing this other stuff. I got to go back to what grounds me. And so over the years, I just identified that MCing is that for me. So sometimes I'll just have to just stop what I'm doing. I don't, not even mid stop. I'll do the admin stuff. I'll finish things through. But when I had that lead way to go to my MC side or go back to that point that keeps me grounded and fuels the artist part, because even when I go to the MC side, I feel it. I can go back to my other spaces that I occupy, and and I can flourish in them. But I have to go back to that spot. So, yeah, man. I mean, I will run back to that spot with no problem, and I'm not good. I'm not good when I don't visit that spot almost often at this point. Like I have to do it like often. Um, even in the midst of me being in school now, writing papers and stuff, like I'll challenge myself, like, okay, write this paper, and at the end of it, treat yourself to, what I'm saying, writing a rhyme, or while my brain is still moving in that creative spot like that, treat yourself on that tip. So yeah, I will stop a lot of stuff that I'm doing. Even if I see something that I would like to get into, or somebody brings up something, I'll stop in a minute. Like, give me a minute. I'll get back with you when I'm ready for it. And I just dive into what makes me thrive as an artist. Because if I don't do that, I'm not gonna be no good to myself, and let alone anybody else. So.
I would say for myself, a large part of what I do is transparency, vulnerability, sincerity, and being trained as a performer, as being an actor. I've done improv comedy. I've done lots of different types of stage work, but voice and improvisation are the things that are my help me to reach and maintain equilibrium. And so things will come to me almost fully formed. Like I'll feel a bud of a song or something, and I just kind of slowly grab my phone and tap the recorder so that I can, kind of catch it midstream. And I love having a Pixel phone because it'll record the audio and then it'll also transcribe at the same time. The transcription isn't necessarily as accurate as it could be, but you can go back and edit it. So it's just like a regular text file. So I could do both of those at one time and not feel like I have to do this and then go back and do that. But like when I am, it's not just singing for me because I'm really good in the studio as a studio musician. I could do it a one take. I can do it and I'd be like, y'all want me to do some layers? Do you want some harmonies? Well, I was feeling like doing this. I have that leeway. People trust me to do it. Whether they've known me or not, somebody will recommend me and then I'll get in there and they're like, oh, all right. Well, yeah, sure. We have an open mic and you do whatever you like.
Oh, you're a singer.
I just lay it on out there. That's what I do. That's what I love to do. But when I'm in front of an audience is when I am alive, because, and this is where it gets kind of woo-woo, but I believe when we perform, particularly live, and that's why I say improvisation, and I don't just mean like making things up improvisation, but I mean like improvised music. Like we're going to do a whole concert of improvised music, or, going to the jams and the jazz artists, they're all like, yeah, so we're all going to do different jazz tunes and we're all going to sit in and I'm going to play the drums on this one. And I was like, well, how about we make something up? And they'll be like, what? Like, yeah, just follow my lead. And I'll start and then you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, now we got us a groove. We done found some pockets, and you can find that space in there. So when we perform, just like existentially, it's a moment that will not happen again. There are things that even if we reproduced all of the same things, that moment will never exist again. And so when I am on stage or the mic is in my hand, or if I'm in a song circle, I am singing as if it is my last. And that I always encourage people to sing with me, to sing along, to sing inside, because that song is important. That, we all have a voice that we come into the world with. And that the voice that we have, this is like my spiel, the voice that you have when you come into the world wailing is the same voice you have when you take your last breath. And that voice is you. People don't love their voices, the sound of the voice, the feel of the voice. There are people who will not sing under any circumstances, not just in front of people. There are people that won't even sing alone. My job is to help them understand that there's a song that's in them, that the shortest distance between two people is a melody. I can sing it and I sing it to you, and you learn it and you can sing it and it echoes and it resonates inside of you. And then you can share it with somebody else and it resonates and sings inside of them. So 100 years could pass and nobody could know my name. But that there's the potential for that melody, that healing melody, to continue to exist. And so we have this agreement when we perform, for me, that I'm going to be my truest self. Now, I'm a performer, so I have a mask, but I also have practice with vulnerability. And it's a balance where it's not like, oh, Lord, she's a mess today. No, everybody doesn't need to know I'm a mess today. But there are some things that I can be honest about if there are difficulties or, that kind of stuff that plays into the type of singer and performer I am, so that it's not out of place or off color. Being my truest self is being a conduit that is open to song, to ideas, to words. I'm very much a word person, and connecting those thoughts to some place in the world that kind of anchors us. And so as an artist, I have to decide which thing is more important. Is it the perfection? Is it the having the perfect take? Is it singing where it's very smooth, or is it the one that's kind of rough or kind of bluesy, and it hits people on a more visceral level? Like, I don't always know what the answer to that is. All I know is that when I show up, I'm ready to sing. I'm ready to be the open door. And it's the mystical part of art and creation that I think in all of these conversations that's being discounted, that is being disrespected, and that is being completely and wholly misunderstood. When we get to thinking that a person is the source of the art that they make, as opposed to the person being a conduit for the art that comes through them, we could talk about albums and streams and royalties and who's biting who and what beef or whatever. But like, if we get to thinking that we are the originator, period, of this thing, and it only comes from one person to do this thing to be sold for this amount of money, we've completely misunderstood what art is. We completely misunderstand what creation is. That there is a kind of otherworldly divinity that we potentially tap into when we create. Now I started getting weird, but like, I believe that deeply, and so I work to honor my art, and I work to respect it in other people as well, and to trust that what comes through them is what's necessary, just like what comes through me is. And everything ain't for everybody. Everything that I make is not going to be for every person that has ever heard me sing. There are people that hear me sing and have no idea that I'm a poet until they hear me something that I wrote and something that I've sung together. And like, we have these secrets of who we are because we're not all that we're going to be. Everything that we've created isn't already inside of us all the time. Sometimes you don't get to a point where you can create something new until you get to a new point in your life, a new point of conflict, a new point of complacency, a new point of tragedy, and trying to find those things, like the human animal, like the human person having this like artistic, creative, spiritual, inspirational, whatever word you want to use. We have to honor that thing. And what makes me angry when we're talking about Andre 3000 deciding to make the kind of record that he wants to make, it pisses on the creativity and the inspiration and the craft and the time and the dedication, the arrangement, orchestration, the studio time, the practice, all of those things that come into making fine art. Not because it's up on the wall somewhere, not because it's sanctioned by the establishment, but because it is being taken seriously enough by the artist to create it, so that the people that they serve it to, whether they like it or not, can get the full thing because we put it into it. People that don't create anything, people that are only consumers, people that are only thinking about the material, they are already not having the same conversation that we're having. They're talking about packaging. They're talking about their moods. They're not talking about what creation is, because they don't understand that. And I think as artists, we're going to have to accept that a lot of people don't really know that part, and we can't make them know it. All we can do is honor it in ourselves and in each other. And I know that was like this long answer, but like, it's not just about putting something on wax. It's not just about how you do distribution for it. It's like, how does what you do find the people that it's for?
Nah, I actually think that's the most beautiful, eloquent, and perfect way to end this conversation. To remind people once again, as you said, like, what creation really is. Like, we can make art, we can make stuff, but what is creation? And making stuff and creation ain't always the same thing. Yeah, like
You
yeah,
can make something that never exists. It does not exist. It did not exist, and now it does.
because you created it, because you brought it forward. And to that, two things very briefly. A, I tell people all the time that I've seen and I won't even put a qualifier or a judgment or a value on it, but I have seen people not complete, not bring forth these things that are inside them.
Mhm.
So once again, it's not even just like having the idea is a beautiful, amazing thing, but there's still, as you said, so much more to refining and not perfecting it in the context of making it perfect, but making it right. So when it's served, it's not just the right flavors, but it's the right temperature.
Mhm.
Like we all know, like insert whoever's chicken can taste immaculate, but you can't eat it if it's fresh out the grease. It has to cool to the right temperature for you to bite it, be able to bite it and eat it. And so once again, it's not just about making it perfect in the sense of nothing wrong with it, but perfect in the sense of the most exceptional or the most um, fullest um, context in which it can be enjoyed, appreciated, and it can once again nourish those who take it in. And then this last piece as a DJ, I tell people all the time, some of my greatest nights as a DJ, I can't tell you shit about them other than I knew I was having a great night
Mhm.
because I didn't think through, plan through. I was listening, whether it was to the music or to any other kind of spiritual or energetic thing, but I was listening and following directions.
Mhm.
It
Absolutely.
was not, it was not, it was
Absolutely.
not the playlist. It was not I was the conduit, and the rest of it literally is history.
Yeah.
So yeah. So even though I had to put that end cap on it, I think that was the most perfect way to end this conversation. So what I would like to do now, Al, tell the people where they can find you. If there's anything that you want to promote as far as projects, products, just get the people the last little splash, and then JD, you as well, and we'll bring this one to a close.
Indeed. Well, first off, I'm going to say great conversation with you both, JD. Great meeting you. Definitely some great words to take away and apply it to my wisdom, etc. So I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Krate, for opening this space right here to have this thorough conversation because some people forget, but some people need to be educated as well. So with that being said, MrAlpete.com, MRALPETE, go there. Also go to mpn-llc.com. That's the media company's space where we have a bunch of podcasts. We have a podcast network, radio station, playing some cool joints. Shouts out to Krate for his mixes that be playing on the radio show. So yeah, start right there at those two websites, and it'll take you to the other socials. But if you just want to start at the socials, Mr. Alpete everywhere. MRALPETE. Yep.
I guess it's my turn. Thank you also for this opportunity to just kind of talk and riff and just kind of get it out. I'm glad that I didn't say, "Oh, I can't do it," and just brought my cell phone in the room. I'm glad that I was able to join y'all. Um, I the easiest thing for me to say for in terms of promoting my work, I have a link tree, and it's just like Linktree, and then Londi Jamel, LONDYJAM is in Michael EL. Londi Jamel anywhere is going to be me, and so there are videos that are out there. My SoundCloud is there. My first album is on Bandcamp. Is linked there. The Afrobeat album that I recorded with the Louisville band that I fronted, the Afrophysicists. The link to that is there, as well as some of our live performances. I'm a part of a new musical ensemble in Delaware, which is where I've relocated to within the last couple of years, called Elevation, and it's a return to choral music, but it's amazing music in terms of the mixes of things, like gospel and pop and soul and classical and, all these things, lots of Black and composers of color, arrangers that we know being commissioned to make pieces. So I'm adding some of those things to the link because I do a lot of different stuff. I am working toward publishing more of my poetry as well. But I'm kind of all over the place. But when it comes to music, when it comes to poetry or performance, just look for Lonnie Jamel, baby, and you'll find me in the different things that I'm doing. But I'm excited to be able to be an artist that's practicing. And I also have a new Instagram that I'm kind of playing with because I'm a vinyl collector. And there's this wonderful growing community of not just Black vinyl collectors, but of Black women who are collecting vinyl and curating vinyl. And so it's Auntie Digs Vinyl, and that's on Instagram. My hope is that when I open my record store, Auntie Digs Vinyl, it will be the name of the store. The of Aunties Dig Vinyl, I think about the musical Auntie that has y'all cleaning the house to Luther Vandross on a Saturday. Like Aunties sometimes had the best music, and I hold on to that. That I'm kind of growing and connecting with more of those people that love not just music, but love music, love records, love projects, and then also love it on a turntable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Quick and short, kratedigga.com, KRATEDIGGA.com, 24/7, 365. We got the music, we got the videos, tutorials, documentary, and more. This last thing I'll say, and then we're gonna sign off. And it was mentioned, and I don't want to tease it, but I gotta tease it because it's the perfect kind of space to say it and kind of leave it ambiguous, but it'll be there soon. Even though this album is an instrumental album, I think that if you really sit down and listen, and Al knows some of what I'm talking about, and I'm gonna send something to you when we get off this, JD. If you really sit and listen, the lyrics are in there. You just have to understand how, and I don't want to give away too much, but in my opinion, I think that part of the process is, as Andre's been rapping for X amount of years, like those bars are still there. They're just being reinvented or translated, and I'm hearing them in the flutes. I'm hearing them.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes and ears open. I'll leave it at that. But with that being said, once again, thank you all both for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm the Krate Digga, and I want to say thank you. Whether you're catching this on YouTube, whether you're catching this on the website, or if your friends or family or even an enemy, it doesn't matter, is letting you know to check this out. Whether you are an artist, a creative, a fan, a supporter, or anywhere in between, we want to say thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you have got something from this conversation, whether it's new perspectives, a new appreciation, or just a little bit more gumption to be the person, the artist, the creative that you feel that you can be, but felt you were being held back, or whatever that is. More power to you. With that being said, we're out of here. Peace and love. One.
Exfoliating with they pom-poms, yelling go 3,000.